Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Let's see. All right, Scott, realwatersports.com. We talked about the giveaway, the Armstrong foil giveaway. You want to win a foil? You could pick any Armstrong kit up to $6,000 on Real Water Sports. The only thing required for you to get in on this is to give your email address on realwatersports.com.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty sure I've entered 5 or 6 times with 5 or 6 different email addresses. You know what I'm saying? Look, Armstrong has a new line of high aspect foils that they've put out, and they're all the rage. So this seems like an ideal opportunity to possibly win one of those. So wow, that sounds great. Real Water Sports doing the Armstrong giveaway.
Even you and I, when we first started talking about foiling years ago, the kind of barrier of entry was just price to get involved. And so I think that's it for a lot of people. This eliminates that. This is a free, quick access into the world of foiling. So no reason not to. They're a great resource. And giving them your email create a great way for them to keep in contact with you when they do these Labor Day sales and all that sort of stuff. So go check them out, realwatersports.com. And then while you're there, our NVS fins, our beloved partners at NVS, also are available through Real Water Sports.
I'm going to pull my fins out before you pull your fins out.
You talking about the Shanes?
Hell yeah. Look at those bad boys. These things just look like they belong in a surfboard. Like they're just, I don't know. I'm pretty psyched on putting them in my twin fin and seeing what happens. Putting them in a twinser, maybe. Whoa, guy.
All you got to do is go surfing at some point instead of foiling, and then you can do it.
I know. And the waves have been so small that it's been tough to ride a surfboard lately, but looks like today there's a little bit of swell. So maybe today's the day we change it up.
I like it. All right, get out there, go to surfnvs.com to get those directly and to see everything else. And of course, they will be at the Boardroom Show, which is a phenomenal place to come and meet because look, these guys don't have a big budget to have a bunch of team riders to be pushing this stuff in your face every day, but everybody in the know knows these fins are incredible and you can go check them out. There's hundreds of templates, I think, at this point.
Well, the cool thing about NVS is that they're involved with shapers as opposed to like surfers who are just like, I don't know, put my name on a cool looking fin. NVS is heavily involved with surfboard designers, so it's pretty cool. And you mentioned the Boardroom Show, Armstrong and NVS, they will both be there, so you can meet the crews. I mean, a great opportunity to kind of peruse the surf industry and network with people.
Yeah, completely. All right. So go to realwatersports.com and surfnvs.com and the boardroomshow.com to get tickets.
Wow.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing right.
Yeah, guy. Are you kidding me? Yeah, to the friggin' guy. It's Thursday, September 5th. And looks like we're one day away, David. Oh, by the way, this is the Spit podcast. We talk all things surf and occasionally some other stuff like books that I'm reading and potential shampoo that maybe David someday might. At what point do you like tell your son no more shampoo?
Dude, trust me, my wife and I had this conversation before he was born.
No more shampoo. There must be tension here between you and Lauren.
I was like, no, I gave in pretty quickly, instantly. But yeah, I had this fantastical idea of a little science experiment of a child. Like, no shampoo ever will touch this kid's head. We could wash his face up to his forehead, but if his bangs get long and they accidentally come down and touch can't let that happen. Just no shampoo for life. And he is guaranteed to become known like Fabio for his hair. He will be on the cover of romance novels.
Austin, like a little wild child. Like I can see him, hair growing all over him, kind of like running in the forest.
Exactly. And that's the thing is you think, oh, that's wild and that's new age and that's gross. Not at all. It's actually the least wild thing. It's the most normal, natural thing. And the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Every single time I get my hair cut, somebody comments. Whoever's cutting my hair is like, holy cow.
Versus your hair.
This is the most
a lot of
thick,
silver,
lustrous, beautiful head of hair I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, you pay that person a lot. What are they going to do? They're cutting your hair. What are they going to say? Oh, it's this hair. By the way, you should wash your hair. You're a filthy human. Do they ever say that? No. I could see Austin as like the poster child for Burning Man. Just a wild child.
Have you ever? So the Burning Man, I think, is going on or it just ended. I saw a bunch of Instagram photos last week. Would you ever have any interest at all in that experience?
You know, a part of me, like sort of like from the outside looking in, I don't know if I want to be in the middle of it. I'm too much a man of comfort. It looks like it's roughing it. It looks like it's dirty. That's something you do in your 20s. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna need, I'm gonna need like a 4-star nearby.
I know. That's exactly how I feel about it too. I'm like, wow, those people look like they're having a really fun time. And
Yeah.
I want no part in it at all.
Yeah. I just want to, I'll watch the video or the documentary of when it melts down. And I guess at the last one, I mean, you're saying that one just happened, but I thought there was one recently where there was just a gnarly rainstorm.
Yeah, last year.
And because of that, like people either embraced it there were some stars. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was somebody like, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr., like some stars that went and just realized that they like had to embrace the rain and the mud. And then once you kind of give into that, it's sort of biblical in a way. It's like, look,
No kidding.
surrender. If you surrender to it, everything's cool. But if you fight it, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that I remember hearing those stories too. People were basically stranded. Like I think some of the roads had washed out, so only 4x4s could get
Oh,
through
you
the
know who it
muddy.
was? I think it was Chris Rock. I think Chris
Yeah, you're
Rock
right.
went and he got stranded and he was just like, you know what? It was super cool. I just ended up like hitchhiking or like finding guys with 4x and jumping in their truck. And how
Yeah.
trippy would that be? Pick up Chris Rock. Be like, hey, this guy needs a ride. I'm
Yeah,
throwing on
totally.
mushrooms. Why not pick him up, man? Everyone's cool.
I remember, I think Diplo, who's like a famous DJ, I think he was performing there even, had a similar story. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what he said. Just took a bunch of psychedelics, found a truck, and enjoyed the ride, basically.
Oh, Diplo?
Yeah,
Who in the hell?
I know. Oh, he surfed Surf Ranch before. He's surf adjacent.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not that he's not somebody that's important. It's more that I don't have a clue about pop culture anymore. And I'm just I'm trying to stay informed, but it's difficult, my friend.
Dude, I'm not even trying to stay informed, and I have no clue. 80% of people's quote celebrities who pop up in my Instagram feed on like some news reel, or something.
Yeah.
80% I don't know who they are. No
I know. At
joke.
what point do like TikTok influencers and influencers in general just lose their cachet because there's just so many of them? Everyone's like, yeah, well, me too. By the way, I'm an influencer. You know what I mean? Like at some point, there's a law of diminishing return.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's even major musicians that I don't know at this point, Doja Cat or whatever. Like some Charlie XCX pops up in the last week or two, and I'm like, what? And they're like, you don't realize she's like bigger than Beyonce. I'm like, since when? 6 months ago? Like that, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. And then so sometimes I will indulge and like go look at who that person is and then maybe even listen to a song or two. It's
Yeah.
all garbage. Never once have I clicked play and been like, oh my God, this is kind of the second coming. This is incredible. Never once, not even close.
You know, it's going to be amazing. And I'm sure this is going to occur, but when we get a DJ for the Super Bowl halftime entertainment, I feel like we will have jumped the shark. Like, I mean, our DJs aren't like, I don't know. I don't want to, I know we've got some surf adjacent DJs, but are DJs musicians, David? My question to you,
No.
are DJs musicians? No. Can
No.
they read music? No. Can they play a musical instrument? Maybe like a kazoo.
Right. But so they don't claim to be musicians, as far as I know. And I think what their strength is, their fans and themselves will tell you, is whipping the crowd into a frenzy, like creating an ambiance and an atmosphere that is, uh, the pinnacle of social gathering, essentially, which is what music was always intending to do in the first place. And then beyond that, there's an argument that could be made that, acoustic guitarists back in the day said electric guitar isn't music either.
Well, I find that
That's
hard to believe because I'm sure they said that. And I know like if we go back to a Dylan documentary, okay, whatever. But look, you're playing chords, you're playing 3 notes forming a chord, like
but
it
there's
doesn't
a
matter what
version.
instrument you're you're playing, if you're forming chords with your hands or with, you know what I mean?
But there's a version, you know what I'm saying, of like the analog version of an instrument and then things being digitized. Maybe piano and keyboard would be a better example, where the purists made the argument that we make about wave pools. And so are we at the similar moment with DJs versus
well, yeah, I think a
traditional?
synthesizer is probably a better analogy
Yeah,
for this
yeah.
argument than a piano. But the thing about synthesizers, like the guys that were playing them, like Stevie Wonder, for instance, that guy, you know, that guy's in a walking instrument, you know what I mean? Like he can play anything. And it's kind of like that with shaping, like, okay, yeah, I'm punching out a board on a machine. Yeah, but here's a skill planer. Can you make me the same board? You know,
Right.
and it's kind of a good analogy.
There's a lot of life analogies in surfing. Little trivia question about David Scales here.
Uh-oh.
First concert I've ever went to was Stevie Wonder.
Really? That's
And
your parents dragged you there?
no, actually, I elected to go. Stevie Wonder was
How
then
old
and
were
is
you?
16, 17.
What were you, like, Songs in the Key of Life or something?
Yeah, yeah, all about it. Then and even now, if I had to like pick one favorite musician, that's Stevie's always been it. Something that I share in common with Kelly Slater, actually, because he mentioned that in an interview once, and I was like, oh, kindred spirits.
I think everybody loves
But would you pick him
Stevie
as your
Wonder.
favorite? Would you pick him
Right.
as your
I
favorite?
mean, he's for me, he's the one that doesn't pop in mind as favorite. But when you say him, you're like, oh, holy shit, yeah, you know. Other what I've got a question for you. Do you wish those days would come back once more?
I absolutely do. Nice.
Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
way, have you ever seen his piano?
No, what's he got?
Neither is he.
Oh my God. That is so good. By the way, I heard something really scary that Steve Harvey and his wife got into a pretty big fight. It's all over TMZ. Did you see this?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's a family feud.
Wow.
Yeah,
We've officially
we're dads.
I mean, at the beginning of the show, I'm like, this is a pretty old man show with us complaining about stuff. And then we officially turned it into the oldest man show right there.
I'm going to make it even older because I have a Who Said That. You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
This is a portion of the show where I try to stump David and the listening audience by providing a quote from a famous surfer. And then I'll give you four selections, and you choose the correct one. This is going to be a short one, David.
Okay, I'm ready.
Who said that? And I quote, "We are warriors. We didn't have to kiss anybody's ass. We came, we saw, we conquered. We're Caesars." Who said that, David? Was it A, Greg Knoll, B, Brock Little, C, Buzzy Trent, or D, Ken Bradshaw?
Greg Knoll.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You're incorrect. It was Buzzy Trent, David, that said that. We're Caesars. I'll give you a little insight, if I may, real quick. Buzzy Trent, hyper masculine big wave surfer of the 1950s and 1960s from Honolulu. Trent was born in San Diego, the son of a mining engineer and a wealthy land-holding mother. Trent was raised in Santa Monica, began surfing at age 12 in Malibu. His mid-teens, he was mentored by eccentric surfboard design genius Bob Simmons. Few surfers in history have had Buzzy Trent's measure for pure athletic skill. He became a Golden Gloves boxer, David. And according to fellow Santa Monica surfer and future big wave rider Ricky Grigg, Buzzy Trent once hit an opponent so hard it killed him right there in the ring. Trent moved to Honolulu in 52 after seeing Walter Hoffman surfing Makaha. And Trent was a raw, no-frills surfer using functional straight back squat and always seeking the highest possible line of attack. Once comfortable in Hawaii, he began looking for the biggest waves he could find, preferably 20-footers and larger. Trent looked at surf media as an opportunity for performance of a different kind. asked to speak one time as a big wave authority in 1963, the square-jawed Trent began his lesson on riptides by calling for a blackboard, which was wheeled in by an attractive bikini-clad, lollipop-licking assistant. Buzzy Trent, in fact, was the first to describe a big wave surfboard as a gun. This is attributed to Buzzy Trent.
Interesting.
And he coined one of the sport's most famous epigrams, saying that big waves aren't measured in feet, but in increments of fear. And David, the Buzzy Trent signature model big wave surfboard from Surfboards Hawaii, produced in 1964, was advertised as the ultimate surf vehicle, the Cadillac, if you will. And it cost $250 back in 64, more than double the price of a stock board. In 2007, David, a Buzzy Trent gun sold at auction for $33,000. And guess what? We have the California Gold Surf Auction has Buzzy Trent's last surfboard, the last surfboard he ever owned and rode, shaped by Dick Brewer and glassed by Bosco Burns, father of Ronnie Burns. That board is in the California Gold Surf Auction, Buzzy Trent's personal rider, his last board. And I'm excited as I'll get out to hold it in my arms and to check it out. And it's got all the nice little used patina dinged up a little bit here and there. You know, Buzzy was just charging. And Buzzy Trent, a very interesting guy. I actually just really kind of just a little tip of the iceberg there on Buzzy Trent.
I liked hearing that. It's a name that I've always known and somebody I knew nothing about, you know, kind of prior to my era. And then for whatever reason, just never did a deep dive. So a lot of that information is new to me, but very interesting.
You know what he did?
No.
He crashed. He was hang gliding, and he crashed violently and hurt himself really bad. And that was the end of his surfing career.
What age?
I'm not sure the exact age, but I'm sure, like, I'm going to guess late 30s, early 40s, something like that.
Wow.
Okay, I don't really know. I need to find that out.
Yeah, not exactly in his prime, but still surfing a ton, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's crazy. We need another Buzzy, dude. We had Buzzy Trent, we had Buzzy 𝐒𝐭𝐬𝐴. Time for a new Buzzy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Not a common name.
No, it isn't. Buzzy.
Yeah.
Honey, I think we should name him Buzzy. Hell no. Buzzy feels like a nickname. You know what I mean?
I have a feeling it was for both him and 𝐒𝐭𝐬𝐴, right?
I don't know. We could find out.
But it's got to be, it's not shortened from, it's not as if his name's Bernard and then that's the short version of Bernard. Like, it's just a nickname. It's not a shortened name, right?
I mean, who knows? Hold on. I'm going to pull it up real quick. I'm pulling it up.
Go for it.
Doesn't say anything here about a nickname. I think he might have been named Buzzy.
Incredible.
From birth, but
bring it back.
I don't know.
Plenty of old names we don't need to bring back, but Buzzy feels ripe, feels young, feels fresh.
It does. Yeah, Buzzy.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Well, I guess Trestles is the theme of the show today, huh?
It is. The event is going to take place tomorrow. I'm 99% sure. The surf media world online is basically stating that. I actually met yesterday. I had coffee with a WSL insider, and of course he wasn't going to tip his cap, and not because he was trying to hold back, but that's, you know, we got to see what the waves are like, right? And but I sense that it's going to be run tomorrow, and I tell you what, if you look at lowers right now online, it's kind of good. Like, I mean, better than anywhere around here. I am, in fact, seeing it right now. Are you?
No, I'm not watching it, but kind of good, or good for a final say showdown.
No. Yeah. In the context of how crappy it's been, it's completely surfable. There are easily chest high waves. I guess you could stretch it out and say that there's some head high sets, because lowers is like that, you know?
Yeah.
When it's 2 feet in Huntington or 2 feet in San Diego, something about the bathymetry at lowers, it just sucks in south swell, and it's always a couple feet bigger, especially at the peak apex right there where you take off. Eventually it tapers down to sort of a normal sized wave, but I'm seeing you know, I guess what we would call waist to chest high surf, and always contestable, like it or not. It's not the ideal thing for a Super Bowl of surfing, you know. And I think that's going to change based on my conversation yesterday.
Meaning a new venue will
Well,
be in play,
well, we all know Cloud Break's coming into play, but
but the final five format
that
might
could,
change.
you know what? I don't want to. That could change.
Okay,
That could
good.
change.
Good.
That could change. I think they're at a place where they're willing to kind of break it and try to reassemble it into
Good.
something that's more focused. You know
Thank
what I
you.
mean? The problem is that there's more than one or two players in the space, decision makers, higher ups, you know, and you've got this competing kind of thing. But the bottom line is that, by the way, I'm seeing a really good wave roll through here. Again, in context of how crappy it's been, there's a good peak. They've never made money, you know, like this is an entity that has never made money. And
So
I
why
I
are
gave
you
this person
so
some, what's that?
so why are they so committed to just doing it the way things have always been done?
Well,
It's
that's
so laughable.
yeah. Well, again, because it's not just like one guy or two guys that are on the same page. You've got multiple stakeholders, and frankly, you've got a lot of kind of salty legacy guys that you and I know that you'd be surprised, but they're like, they have more of a what's good for the sport kind of mentality rather than what's good for the viewer. They don't, a lot of times those two things don't line up, you know, like it's good for the sport to have it in Southern California near Los Angeles for the, you know, again, I'm giving you their version. This isn't my take, but I did suggest to this person they should hyper focus. And if I was them, I would get rid of the big wave thing. I would get rid of the longboard thing. I would get rid of everything except for crowning a high performance shortboard champion, or not even shortboard, a high performance. Because I also mentioned, I think that they should put a big wave venue on the event schedule. If you're going to do Abu Dhabi Kelly Slater's wave pool, you should do one at Jaws. And so Felipe doesn't show up. So what? He gets a zero.
Yeah.
But that's what you and I were watching, or at least me, you know, in 1978 on NBC. We were watching Man versus Nature at Pipeline. The NBC executives, again, I'll, you know, reiterate, they weren't putting on 3-foot blown out Huntington Beach, you know, U.S. championships. They were putting on Man versus Nature, the largest waves in the world here. We're on the North Shore of Oahu, one of the islands in the island chain in the great state. And here we are, and I'm Bob Costas, or actually who was it that did it? It was like Jim. It was like, who's the guy? Jim, not Jim Gray, but
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I'm getting old now. We continue with the old theme. Point is, by the way, another little takeaway from that conversation, don't be surprised if we see a pay-per-view component, an ad-free pay-per-view component. You could perhaps still watch it free with ads rolling, or you can pay extra for a premium without ads. That may be happening. None of this stuff, again, it was just he and I just kind of riffing. So it wasn't, oh man, here comes a good set, David. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the biggest set I've seen all morning. And it's like a solid South Swell set with 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 waves in it.
And let us know if there's a world title contender up and riding.
𝐒𝐭𝐻 just ripping.
Yeah.
Swear to God.
Yeah.
That's got to be 𝐒𝐭𝐻. Absolutely. By the way, today's the day there where they let everybody go out, the 5 men, 5 women, and they clear the water, and it's just an expression session.
So let me know, or can you say what the intent of your coffee meeting was? I know you're obviously not stating who the person is, but was it specifically to?
Do you want to know the intent as a way to possibly guess who it was?
Or I'm just curious if
it was a higher up. I'll just say it was a higher up within the WSL architecture business.
No, but I'm just curious if they were meeting to glean ideas from you.
No, we're just friends.
Oh, okay.
It was
Gotcha.
just
Gotcha.
I'm in town for the event. Let's go have a cup of coffee type thing.
Gotcha. Because so much of what you're talking about right now is all stuff we've discussed on the show,
No,
from
it
the
is.
pay-per-view stuff to the
It is.
whatever. Like, and it's funny to hear you say, it's probably just maybe not the most precise choice of words, but when you say the more salty legacy guys who have actually been in the industry for a long time are the ones looking at what's good for the sport, quote unquote, and that's why they want to run in Orange County, because that's not, first of all, what's good for the sport. And I think of those legacy guys as being the ones who understand that the waves are the stars. But what you, I think, mean to say is those who have a vested interest in the industry, a capital
Exactly.
interest, are the
Exactly.
ones who want to run it in Orange County because
Yeah,
they
they
think
might
that's
not
good
even
for the
be
bottom line.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they might not even be WSL decision makers, but they have
No.
the ear of the WSL
Exactly.
people. Yeah.
Yes, but that's not what's best for the quote sport. I suppose depending on how you view the sport. I'm just thinking of, if you really want to grow your bottom line for your brand, you would push the progress of surfing to make it more compelling to a wider number of people, which means you would be running at, man versus nature locations. That would be my argument and my long-term play.
Also, something interesting I thought from that conversation, and again, this might be something that you already knew too, but we were talking about when the acquisition first occurred with Paul Speaker way back in the day. I don't even know when that was. Was that like, I feel like that was 2012, or
It's about right.
when did they have the New York event? Because the New York event was kind of like the big kickoff of the acquisition.
I feel like 2010.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It seems like a long time ago, which it was. Anyway, back then, Paul Speaker and those around the acquisition, they had this framing of their purchase of the WSL that was like, we've got lots of money, we've got lots of power, we've got broadcast, things that in the pipeline, and we're going to be on maybe, ESPN or where, we've got streaming, and they put out this vibe, and you might recall this as well, that we're killing it already. You know what I mean? Like, we've got money and mojo. And the interesting takeaway from my friend was that what that did was it set the rest of the surf industry like, okay, you guys are doing great. Why don't you give us some money then? As opposed to if they would have come out and went, hey, we're going to need your help to get this thing going. Would you please sponsor an event? There was such this like big New York City, Madison Avenue kind of tone around it that everyone in the surf industry was like, you don't need us. Go get your big time sponsor. See you later. Bye. And now, of course, we're at a place where they're like, hey, Hurley, do you think you'd like to sponsor an event?
Well, no, I feel like it's actually similar times. I feel like the posture that they have now is that they are bigger than surfing. They have, all these industry connections and ties. They're bigger than surfing. And so they're almost abandoning the core. I mean, that is kind of the main central tenet. And so, but really the only way that I think survives in industry is when economics are thriving, like when the world is, everybody's got money to spend, everybody's got huge credit lines. Like, that's when you can kind of do big baller moves and make huge mistakes. But now's not that time. I think now's the time to develop a more grassroots approach and engage the core and build profitable individual revenue streams.
Yeah.
And and that's not the approach they're taking.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Maybe they're making some small incremental changes, and maybe not all of them. They're not doing it as quickly as you and I would hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Certainly, the final five of Cloudbreak could be looked at as, a move towards appeasing the core.
Yeah.
Maybe
agreed.
appeasing isn't the right word, but
finally listening. I mean, look, just open up their Instagram comments or go to Stab comments whenever there's an article about the Final Five or something. It's dominated with distaste, dominated with, this is a bad idea. I'm tired of this idea. So you don't have to dig very far to understand the consensus.
Yeah, I think that there's also a lot of, as there's, it's an easy place to go and spit out your vitriol, and
It's not all vitriol.
Well, some of it I'm sure is quite valid, but I think that there's a lot of, it's easy to just pile on.
So I do want to talk about the event itself, though. How do you feel? I think of you as a patriot. How do you feel that there's so many U.S. contenders right now in contention for a title, and the favorites are actually, especially on the women's side? You ask anybody who's going to win, there's two people that they mention on the women's side. They ignore the bottom three. They always mention Caitlin Simmers, Caroline Marks. So that's almost a lock for a world title. Then on the men's side, you have the top two. Obviously, John flies the Hawaiian flag, but American, and Griffin Colapinto, American as well.
I actually like it. I think even take away the flag, those are just great finals. Carolyn and Katie Simmers, that's really a good final. I mean,
Totally.
Caroline Marks is an insane competitor. Like her backhand is insane. Like,
yeah.
And so the contrast between a rookie Caitlin and Caroline Marks, who's just a gold medalist, is like world champion, is I just see that as, like, from a fan's point of view, that's a pretty damn good final. And the same with Griffin versus John. Like, that's just an insanely good final, regardless of the flag.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited for it too. What
now, that being said, I see 𝐒𝐿𝐻 as a hungry threat here.
So this is where the forecast comes into play. Obviously, we'd have different picks probably for 8-foot lowers, 6 to 8 foot lowers than we would for 3-foot lowers. And yeah, 𝐒𝐿𝐻 might be. I mean, honestly, Griff, I think, has a better shot against John too. If it did just come down to those two, I think Griffin has a better shot at smaller lowers. And not that he's not competent at large lowers, he very much is. But John, I think, I question John's ability in smaller lowers. But that being said, I saw John's Instagram from a day or two ago at T Street, and it was like knee high, and I'm like, dude, this is.
I agree.
This is insane.
There's a
He's
sense
every
that
bit as good
because John is so large. Like, that's my personal thing. I don't know if everyone else senses that, but I'm like, John's just big. He needs kind of a bigger wave. But the bottom line is that guy can rip the shit out of 2 to 3 foot waves as good or better than anybody. And
I think
he throws more water, and he's got the air game in the small stuff.
So I think the perception is because he's large, but it's also because we've always seen his highlight performances coming in triple overhead surf that nobody else is putting in that level of performance in. And so he just opts not to go surf small waves. But when he does, obviously he's got his boards dialed. Like when you look at those Peisel, Dark Arts, Construction, like the Tiger, Red Tiger, White Tiger, whatever the small wave kind of grovel models are, those things are super refined and designed for exactly that. And he's going to town. Like, again, when I saw that Instagram clip, I thought, this outshines 𝐒𝐿𝐻 even in these small waves, which I didn't think I would say. So then I think about Griffin and how he surfs those waves. And I'm like, you know what? John, because of his size, actually is doing a little bit more damage to these waves than I think Griffin can. It just looks more imposing.
Yeah,
so
no, you nailed it. Yeah, I agree with you. And so that presumption is thrown out the window, basically, right? And
I think it is.
I'll tell you this. I think you must have seen the same Instagram clip that I saw. I don't know if you did, but in it, one of the pieces is the little 10-second clip or whatever of John at Margaret River this year doing a huge, massive hack on a huge wave on the right at Margaret River. And it's do you remember the one where it's just the most mental, like, I don't even know what you call it. It was like a layback, but then a fall down, but a recovery, but the fin slipped and he recovered. And of course he made it look like he was planning on doing that.
Yeah.
I saw that, I think yesterday, and I was like, just give him the world title. Like, are you kidding me? We're going to decide in chest high trestles that this guy's not the best. This guy's the best.
I know.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
And that's like not free surfing. That's in competition at the height of the most crucial first turn part of the 8-foot wave at Margaret's, and it's next level.
No, he's had a dominant year. There's no question about it.
By the way, the aggregate world championship, as opposed to the final 5, Maybe that's on the table. Bring back the
What
aggregate.
was that on the table yesterday?
I'm just, again, I'm just talking to one person. This person isn't the final decision maker, but he was a fan of the aggregate.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, when you also look at people's picks for who's going to win tomorrow, no, I haven't seen a single person mention Jack Robinson's name.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Huh? I wonder why that is.
I've heard the arguments for 𝐒𝐿𝐻 could come from behind because of the small wave forecast and his prowess. I've heard Ethan Ewing's performance last year at lowers was only barely outdone by Felipe Toledo. So there's an argument for Ethan. Then, of course, Griffin's hometown and his performance last year. And then, of course, John is obvious, but nobody mentions Jack Robinson.
That is so fascinating. You're absolutely right. What a great recognition on your part, because I had never thought of it, because I'm not even thinking about Jack Robinson. No one's thinking about it.
Which is kind of a dark horse option ability for him to just sneak in. That's kind of an angle. But, and the other thought that I had about it was he's one of the best surfers in the world. Like, he is a threat at any world-class wave to win an event. And yet a complete non-threat at 3-foot lowers. And that's an indictment of the format as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. Is he a non-threat though? Like, I mean, he kind of is, because we're not, no, I mean, I guess
he's
he is,
the least,
question.
He's the least threatening out of that top
I mean,
5.
that suggests
Or
that
with
he
this
can't
forecast.
win events in small waves. That's what you're saying.
Well,
and I'm trying to think back, and my memory, of course, is failing me, but has he had an event this year in small waves where he came out, like he made the semis or the finals and he was performing well? Now, I don't think you or I have our finger on the pulse that deeply to remember which events.
It's specific to against these 4 guys. These 4 guys, we can think of phenomenal small wave performances. I think the larger kind of picture here is Jack Robinson from the earliest of days was focused on the best waves in the world and refining his style of surfing for those waves.
Yeah.
And so even if he's had a performance in small waves that was notable, it's not what he was designed to do. He is a Ferrari fine tuning on the, most challenging racetracks on the planet. And then you're going and you're putting him in the golf cart and saying, try to do the Ferrari thing. And he's like, I'm okay at it. I'm pretty good at it, but not compared to 𝐒𝐿𝐻, who was designed for the golf cart, or the go-kart.
So Jack Robinson is the underdog. He's the guy you would maybe want to put a bet on, thinking you're going to get a pretty good odds, pretty good return on investment. That's so interesting.
Isn't it? Well, it's interesting.
I wonder
because
if he feels that way. Does he like putting a little chip on his shoulder here?
Look, I mean, he was in the final 5 last year at lowers too, right? And he wasn't memorable then.
No.
So I think he probably recognizes that. So on the women's side, though, the funny thing is 3 people we're not talking about. If you ask anybody, they all say Caitlin or Caroline. So Tatiana Weston-Webb is almost a conversation point. Molly Picklum, Brissa Hennessy, everybody's kind of just written off entirely. So I don't know.
Well, Tatiana's,
I don't know if that's
definitely
fair.
I would put Tatiana in and say that she's got a chance. The other 2, Molly, I just feel like we just don't know. I mean, we've seen her. She absolutely tears it. She rips, but I just feel like, I don't know. And for sure, Brissa's got sort of a Connor Coffin kind of vibe about it. Like, okay, she made it. Congratulations. There's no way.
Brutal.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I'm not here to, I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be mean spirited to anyone. I'm just,
well, what's funny is
she rips in pumping Chopu, pumping Cloudbreak.
Yeah. But I guess in past years where Carissa Moore was in first and I'd see somebody coming up through the, Stephanie Gilmore, whoever from the low ranking on finals day charging through, I'd start feeling very nervous and almost dismayed for Carissa. I'm like, Carissa earned this. I don't feel that way on this year with the women's. Like if Tatiana started charging through, I'm kind of rooting for Tatiana at that point. Or if Molly Picklum did too, I want to see that. And Brissa being the underdog, I'd want to root for her as well. So as much as I love Caitlin Simmers and I actually want her to win the world title, I wouldn't feel the same animus that I'd felt for Carissa, you know.
If Jack Robinson moves through the field, will you feel animus?
Yes, I would. I would.
Like, not
in
this
that scenario.
slogger. This guy's slow.
I mean, I love Jack Robinson. I love Jack Robinson, you know, just not for these reasons, not for lowers. Ultimately, I just want to see the best surfing in the world, and I hope everybody brings their A game, and I hope that it ends up being complete knockout, drag out fights, and that there's waves. Like the other thing with lowers is it can be really lully. So especially with not a real direct swell hit, you can hit these 45-minute, 50-minute windows where there's no sets. And so let's hope that we avoid that.
Elo just lit one up.
Elo? Eric Logan?
No, Elo. What's he up to? What's Eric Logan up to these days?
Life
man?
Force 360. I've had a bunch of people send me Instagrams this past week of a Life Force 360 ad with him sitting there talking about how he's conquered everything, and Life Force 360 is the way he's done it.
Oh, all right. Well,
yeah. Must be
whatever floats your boat. Whatever floats your boat.
Now you forced me to do a multiple choice exam every show. I've got one for you.
Okay, can you hold on for a sec?
Yeah, let's go. Welcome back.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, so this is not multiple choice, but do you know when the first civilian event at Trestles was and who won it?
Civilian as opposed to military?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm gonna guess that it was like something like the 75 US Pro or something like that, and it was probably won by like somebody from the South Bay, like one of the shapers, like Nathan Pratt or somebody like that.
Great guess, close guess. It was 1977. It was called the Sutherland Pro.
Yeah.
And it was won by a Hawaiian.
Dankila.
Michael Ho.
Michael Ho. A Sutherland Pro. Was one of those South Bay shapers in the finals, like Dan Flecky or Nathan Pratt or somebody like that?
I don't know. I didn't see the finals list. Yeah. I only pulled that from the history of lowers, which I'm going to read and share to you now. Read to you and share to our listeners now, the history of lowers.
Yeah.
In reference to this event it's a set. So the history of, Trestles, not the history of lowers, but we're going to start with Trestles. We'll narrow it down to lowers. But Trestles is a set of easy to ride, high performance cobblestone lined point breaks located on the border between San Diego County and Orange County, about 75 miles south of Los Angeles, the long-standing epicenter of California high performance surfing. Quick side note, Scott will have you know, lowers is in San Diego, not in Orange County.
This is the border of San Diego County, that river between uppers and lowers.
But it is technically San Diego County.
Oh yeah, San Diego County.
Yep. Okay, back back to Warshaw's Encyclopedia of Surfing. Quote, from north to south, the major surf spots at Trestles are Cotton's Point, a shifty, peaky, mostly left breaking wave, upper Trestles, an upbeat right, lower Trestles, the premier break in the area, a long and even paced right matched by a shorter, quicker left, and then Church. The tapering.
Can you stop right there for just a second? Here's what's interesting, right? You mentioned Church, right? If you call it Churches, I know there's all older guys that are salty are like, dude, it's Church. We called it Church. I call it lower trestle, upper trestle. That's what it is. The trestle is the upper trestle. You know what I mean? So it's not trestles unless you're talking about the whole area.
Well, okay, that's interesting. It's named after a train trestle, but isn't a trestle just one side of the track? And then if you have a second one, it would become trestles.
I thought the trestle was the bridge that the river runs under.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, maybe we'll have to dig in.
There's upper trestle and lower trestle.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you're right. I have to think more deeply on this. But anyways, Church is a tapering point. This is how I want to spend my time.
World problems.
Divided into 3 separate breaks. And in San Onofre, a popular longboarding and beginner break is located just to the south of Church. And by the way, San Onofre was in the news this week, and we'll get to that shortly. Anyways, Trestles, named after a pair of wooden train trestles located at either end of the area, you're right, is sometimes described as America's most consistent wave zone, often coming up with small surf when the rest of the coast is waveless and bearing up well under the prevailing afternoon west winds. Rarely do any of the breaks hit 8 foot or bigger. Located at the northwest corner of the Camp Pendleton Marine Corps base, a virtually undeveloped 125,000-acre tract of land used primarily as military training ground, Trestles has long been an oasis in the middle of Southern California's otherwise insanely overdeveloped coastline. Estuaries and marshes are located just behind the beach at Church, Lowers, and Uppers. Deer, bobcat, beavers, coyote, mountain lions, and eagles live in the nearby foothills. While a few Orange County surfers rode Trestles as far back as the late 30s, Peanuts Larson's of Laguna is sometimes mentioned as the first. Mickey Dora and Phil Edwards, in their pre-surf icon teenage years, put the break on the map in the summer of 1951, walking 1 mile north of San Onofre to Lowers and riding by themselves day after day. By the end of the 1950s, Trestles was thought of as Orange County's answer to Malibu, except that Malibu was the most public of surf breaks. The Marine patrolled Trestles was technically off limits to all beachgoers, surfers included. In 1971, when public access was allowed, the Trestles surfing experience was in large part a strategic and tactical engagement with the U.S. Marines. Entry and exit routes through the marshland reeds were plotted. Surfboards were often hidden by their owners and sometimes confiscated by the Marines, and ammunition on occasion was fired over the heads of trespassing surfers. At one point, a platoon of Coast Guard cutter positioned themselves on either side of the lineup at Lowers just to remove 2 knee boarders. But Trestles, as San Diego surfer Chuck Hasley once noted, quote, was the one beachhead that the Marines could never hold, end quote. Trestles has been a home break to dozens of California's top riders over the decades, including Billy Hamilton, Herbie and Christian Fletcher, Jericho Poplar, Matt Archibald, Chris Ward, Shane Beschen, Kolohe Andino. Overcrowding has been a problem since the early 70s. During a summer swell, it's common to have as many as 100 surfers in the water at a time at Lowers. The first annual all-military surfing championship, held at Church, took place in 1972. The first civilian event was held in 1977 and was the $6,000 Sutherland Pro, won by Hawaiian surfer Michael Ho. Dozens of professional and amateur events have been held at Trestles since the late 80s. In 1990, world champion-to-be Kelly Slater made his pro debut by winning the $100,000 body glove surf bout held in perfect 5-foot Lowers. The World Tour added Trestles to the schedule in 2001 with the Billabong Pro, later renamed the Hurley Pro, held at Lowers, won by Andy Irons and Pauline Metzger. The NSSA, of course, runs events there since 1992. A 10-year battle to prevent a toll road project from spilling into the Trestles area was won, at least temporarily, in early 2008 when the California Coastal Commission voted 8-2 that the project was not in compliance with the California Coastal Act. And in 2013, the nearby San Onofre nuclear power plant, after a small radioactive leak, was shut down for good.
There's some good insight there. I was reading a really cool thing about John Severson and his little plot of land there at Cotton's, and what went on with him and the Nixon campaign, basically the White House West, where Richard Nixon lived, and that little community there. And there was some give and take, because at the time, of course, everyone was smoking weed. Severson was known to smoke a little weed. Of course, that didn't go good with the Secret Service and the other neighbors who were smelling the weed. I think he was invited at one point to Nixon's house for like a community get together, because it's a private gated community, and he got along great. I think he talked with President Nixon or whatever, but eventually he was sort of disinvited from the community parties because of the marijuana thing and those surfers, you know.
It was more contentious than that, even from what I heard. Drew Campion told me directly at some point, stories of being there, like Drew was there, you know, and he said it was very contentious. I think he said there's times when they saw rifles sighted at Severson's house even. And there was surveillance.
Drew was the one that was causing the
but there was definitely surveillance. You know, they would see telescopes headed directly into their house all the time. So yeah, they basically got rousted out of the community.
That's crazy.
Brutal. But the huge update this week was victory at San Onofre. A new lease preserves continued public access. So we talked about this threat to Sano, where the lease was expiring and the military had the option to renew it or not. And so we had a petition on surfrider.org for people to go and sign and activate, rally around. But SurfRider is thrilled to announce that the California State Parks and Marine Corps Base Pendleton have finalized a new lease agreement for San Onofre Beach. The 25-year-long lease between the state parks and the Marine base ensures continued public access, management, and protection for the beloved coastal resource. For your support as SurfRider members and the dedication of the partners at the San Onofre Parks Foundation helped make this victory possible. Another milestone for SurfRider's long history of preserving the iconic stretch of California coast through the 15-year-long Save Trestles campaign, which we discussed with Matt Warshaw. San Onofre State Beach is an ancestral home and its native habitat to 12 endangered species at the mouth of the last remaining undammed streams in California. It's the site of multiple world-renowned surf breaks. SurfRider remains committed to ensuring the incredibly rare stretch of undeveloped coastline, keeping it protected, undeveloped, and accessible for public and all future generations to enjoy. So go to surfrider.org to become a member and support endeavors like this in the future.
Well, that's some good insight, and congratulations to you and I and all the surfers around the world that we now get to continue to access San Onofre. And what a wonderful location, wonderful spot.
Totally. Yeah, no, phenomenal work. Good job. It really is I liked Warshaw's contrasting kind of explanation of how developed Orange County is, and San Diego for that matter, versus that little pristine, protected 125,000 acres.
And make no mistake, if that toll road went through, development was happening. Like, that's what roads are for, so you can bring in bulldozers. So grateful that that didn't occur. And I remember being a part of all of that. It was like you said, it felt like a 20-year ordeal.
Yeah,
to
15.
shut down that. And I remember being at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. They had one of the Coastal Commission meetings there, and it was quite intimidating. The local union people like bust in, all of these like gnarly like union worker dudes in their orange t-shirts, and they just got off the buses with their signs, and it was quite a civics lesson for me. I was blown away by how, like I say, how intimidating the pro toll road people were.
Yeah, well, you want to be sympathetic to people's position, like I try to think, am I just so hyper focused on surfing that I'm over assigning value to the things adjacent to surfing, and I'm kind of missing a bigger picture here? Because if you look at development that's happened in the past, a lot of it has been for the good of civilization, and so maybe I'm overlooking that. And you see those hardworking dudes, those guys are working harder than I am. You know what I mean? Like I want to believe their side, but when you look at all the environmental concerns and all of the overdevelopment, it's important to recognize, to keep certain things protected and to not develop everything. I saw the Irvine Company owns much of the land in Orange County, and I saw a coffee table book that they put out recently. I think it's called Irvine Ranch. It's just this huge coffee table book.
That sounds cool.
It's very cool. And at the very beginning, it lays out the original plan. and how it's crazy to see how much of that plan is actually they stuck to and is the same today. And they basically said they realized, I don't know what the year was, it was early. They realized people are coming. Like, this is so amazing. People are coming. And so let's plan for them to come. And so they bought everything from, Newport Beach down to, I don't know where, past Laguna. And then from the coastline all the way into Anaheim. And they plotted it. They're like, this will be industrial area. This will be commercial. This will be apartments. This will be residential. This will be educational research and development, which ended up becoming UCI. This will all be protected. We will never develop this. And it was all just plotted out percentage wise. And sure enough, they stuck to the plan. Here's where the roads will be, and they stuck to the plan. And that's why it's like the ultimate community planning experience, probably up until the United Arab Emirates or something like that. But it's really, really impressive.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, what an interesting time. There's so much opportunity there. If you were associated with the Irvine company, the land company, and had the ability to get a bid in, and I mean, people made their fortunes on developing that stuff, and more power to them. And like you said, it was going to get done. It's better than it's the way it is now than if it was like Tijuana or something, And
well, it's better to have the foresight to plan for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but it's really good that they didn't do that filthy toll road down there, and we've got basically our own little mini version of the ranch here in Southern California, where it's just the way the way it's always been,
Totally. Yeah, you really see the value of that in hindsight.
And frankly, Camp Pendleton is like an incredible resource, that the military owns that land and keeps it. And like, if that ever got sold off, Katie barred the door. I think everybody's out of here.
Well, I think we've said this in the past, but for listeners who don't live locally or surf trestles, part of the experience being so close to that military testing ground is you hear these sonic booms when you're surfing lowers or any of those beaches, which is military bomb testing, on that land. Yeah. So it's pretty scary, actually.
Live ordnance, and you feel it down here where I live, and I'm sure you probably hear it up in Huntington.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I have a Duke of the week. I would like to acknowledge Mitch's Surf Shop in La Jolla. They, a couple of days ago, posted that it was their 57th anniversary milestone. So for over half a century, this iconic surf shop has been more than a store. It's been a cornerstone of the local surf community and a beacon for surfers around the world. Founded in 1967, Mitch's has seen generations of surfers walk through its doors, each one leaving with not only a board or a wetsuit, but a piece of the spirit that makes La Jolla such a special place to surf. The shop has been witness to the evolution of surf culture, always staying true to its roots while embracing the changes that have come with the times. Mitch's has maintained a reputation for quality, authenticity, and deep passion for the ocean. The staff, always knowledgeable and welcoming, treat every customer like family, sharing stories, giving advice, passing waves, and keeping the shop thriving for so long. So Mitch's celebrates 57 years. We'd like to pay tribute to the enduring legacy. Here's to many more waves, community, and timeless joy. Happy anniversary, Mitch's Surf Shop. Thank you for keeping the stoke alive. Of course, they have an additional location in Solana Beach as well. And just so many notable surfers have come through there as employees, even.
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, Devin's brother, Brett Howard, I'm not sure if Devin worked there.
Yeah. Devin worked there too, I believe.
I worked next door to Mitch's in 1985 and 86.
Which location?
Or maybe it was 84. The La Jolla location. There was El Pescador Fish Market, what used to be right next door to Mitch's. And so I worked for Sean Shannon and Jeff Norris there at El Pescador. I guess it was 84 and 85, something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, a lot of fun being next to a surf shop, believe me.
Amazing. Well, the other thing that's notable is the surfboards that are in those shops, both Mitch's locations. It's a who's who of San Diego icons that you think are not accessible. You're like, it's years to get one of these boards if I were to order it custom. And then they've always got 5 of them sitting there on the rack because they've had those relationships for half a century. So that's how they get them.
Yeah, they had for a long time, they carried a really classic San Diego shaper. I think he's from IB, Craig surfboards. And I can't remember, is it Don? I want to say it's, no, not Don Craig, but Craig is his last name. And I can't remember his first name, but you know who rode his boards a lot?
No.
Alan Cleland Sr. rode those. I mean, if memory corrects, if I'm correct, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I have a must-see moment.
Presented by Trees Wax.
That's
who will
right.
Be at the Boardroom Show.
That's right. Must-see moment presented by Trees Wax. So Mikey February has 2 recent edits on YouTube, and one's 3 minutes long, one's 5 minutes long, and they're of Morocco, him surfing in Morocco. One of them is called Morocco Side A. The other one's called Morocco Side B. Go hunt those down on YouTube. It's really cool. One of them's actually a left in Morocco. Mikey February surfing on a left. And then another one is, of course, the incredible rights there in Morocco. And I watched it this morning. Somehow I got involved in clicking on it the way YouTube makes you. And it was good stuff. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Well, I enjoyed watching him in the Four Seasons Maldives Pro, or whatever they call that event that just ran this past week. He was in I think he got third in the twin fin. Actually third in the twin fin division, and then second on the overall leaders board. But yeah, his surfing is always dreamy on the eyes, easy on the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff.
I have a must-see moment presented by Trees Wax that is specifically for you, Scott.
Oh, okay. It's
a documentary that you can watch on Amazon Prime for free, and it's called Loopers, The Caddy's Long Walk, about the golf caddy.
Oh, that's cool.
Have you heard of this?
No, I want to see it. Loopers.
Yeah. One of your dear friends
is a looper.
Professional?
Yeah. He loops for a lady on the LPGA. Benedetta Moresco is her name. And they call her Benny. And she was the low amateur at the Pebble Beach US Open 2 years ago. And she went to Alabama, and now she's on the LPGA. And my friend Chris is her caddy. And Chris's son Theo is the surf guide out at Surfing Village in Indonesia, where my son Hank and I go every year.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected. And Chris lives in Santa Cruz. He sometimes is a caddy at Pebble Beach and stuff. But yeah, so if we got surfers out there on the LPGA, looper, he's a looper.
So the reason this came across my transom was Jason Boffa made the film. And he made One California Day and Single Fin Yellow and so many great surf films, iconic surf films now. And he actually directed this film as well. And I had seen it years ago when it first came out. And then I interviewed him and published a podcast with him last week. And so I rewatched it on Friday. And it's so well done. Like, I don't golf, and so I was unaware as to how influential the caddy is, but they give the full history of the caddy from like when golf was introduced, when the caddy was introduced, the evolution of the caddy, the courses where the caddy has to be a course caddy versus the ones where you could bring your own caddy, and the relationship between various golfers with their caddies and the level of influence that caddy had. Like, they'll get into the specifics for Tiger Woods' famous caddy that he had for 10 years or whatever, and what their dynamic was and the insights that he provided for Tiger, and then why that relationship split up and how to, what?
His name was Fluff.
Okay. See?
And the big mustache.
And they interview each of these people, like they're getting straight from the horse's mouth information. So it's phenomenal. And ultimately it kind of reminded me of Surfboard Shapers, because I was thinking, surfers don't have the equivalent of a caddy who like gives you all this special insight. And then I was like, well, they kind of do. The surfboard shaper is their understanding elements of the design and the waves and all that stuff that the surfer, if the surfer has to allocate brain power and time to thinking about those things, then they're off task. So you need somebody who can just remind you of those things. By the way, the documentary is narrated by Bill Murray. which
I'm
is
so
awesome.
stoked for Jason. He makes such great movies. I'm really looking forward to watching. Did you say it's on Netflix?
Amazon Prime for
Oh,
free.
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, you can stream it for free in the US.
I just texted my friend who's a looper, and he said, yeah, he's seen it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey,
by the way,
great
I
show.
am a little bit more stuff you should must see moment but I don't know what books you're reading. What books are you reading?
Yeah, Kitchen Confidential.
What?
The Anthony Bourdain memoir.
Oh, how's that?
Fantastic. So good.
That's in Kitchen Confidential?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm reading Lonesome Dove.
Oh, right.
Larry McMurtry. Have you ever read that book?
No.
Really interesting book. Fun book to read.
I love a good Western.
I was told that you have to, like, this is like Huckleberry Finn. Like, this is a classic American novel that you must read. And it's relatively modern as far as the writing style. So it's not like you're reading, Hemingway or Faulkner or something.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, hey, looking forward to allocating the entire day to watching surfing tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun day. It's not going to be pumping, 8 to 10 foot pipeline, but for what we're getting here, relative to how shitty it's been, I think it's going to be very contestable. I'll just put that phrase out there.
Good enough.
Yeah. Okay, David, look, until next time, adios and aloha.
All right, Scott, did you get your restock of AG1?
I did get my new AG1, and I'm so thankful and grateful that they're a part of our show because I absolutely love it. And their AG1 is a part of my health regime. I eat really healthy. I try to exercise as much as possible, and AG1 is a big part of my daily, like I say, my regime, my intake.
Hard to even say what it's doing because I just don't know life without it. Been doing it for 3 years now, but I can tell you, generally don't get sick.
Your hair looks good. It could be doing a lot for your hair.
Got to start using that actually as the selling point. But I mean, look, I don't really get sick ever. You know what I mean? And I kind of produce a lot of content and output just in my work life and sleep really well. And so I feel it's working. I'm not going to not do it at this point. But there's also a 90-day money back guarantee for anybody who's heard us talk about this and is like, I don't know, I'm on the fence or I'm trying these other things. Fine. Try this for 90 days. You can get your money back if you don't like it. That's 3 months worth of usage. And I think they make that guarantee because it's effective. It's efficient and it's effective.
I mean, the way I sort of simplify it is, look, get your greens, Yeah. I remember for years, my friend Jeff Baldwin would be like, oh yeah, I have my green drink every day. And I'm like, really? Where? How do you do that? What's up? Now I have my green drink. I get my greens and it's organically sourced. All the vitamins and minerals that your body requires and basically yearns for. I get it all in my AG1. Get your greens.
I don't want to act like an expert because I'm not. So I don't tell people like what's in it. Go to drinkag1.com/surf and read what's in it on your own. Do your own research, see if it suits you, but it's pretty comprehensive. So works for me. By the way, do what Jeff Baldwin's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that guy.
Yeah, that guy's a stud.
Look at that guy. Just be like, he said to do it. I'm doing it. So anyways, good. I'm glad you got the restock. drinkag1.com/surf. All right. Thank you very much.